right, it is November 18th, it's 6 o'clock. I will call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order and invite everybody to please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up is public comment. Any public comment? Nope, not seeing any. I'll move on. Oh,
There's one important thing, and that is Larry Brown. We are, as we all know, a quiet and slow-paced rural community in the north, and it takes a long time for news of the world to reach us. Did LSU win?
Which game, Alabama or Ole Miss?
There were two games? What?
We won both of them, thank you.
all right. Thank you. Any other public comment? I'm not seeing any, so we'll move on to new business.
I'll tell Ricky to watch this episode.
First up, request to purchase vehicle. Chief Marie.
Hello. Mind if I sit? Since there's so much crowd.
Can you speak louder so we can all hear you?
Where do you want me to start? How do you want to do this? So, you want me to give a brief summary?
Yeah.
Since everybody's listening. As you know, we have a 1995, 1984 ladder truck that the town's had since 2007. It was purchased used from Somersworth. It's been a good truck, however, it's now 34, 35 years old. So it's what I like to call an injured reserve, meaning we have it, it's in service, but we try not to use it in fear of what may happen to it. We've kind of been milking it along like that for a couple of years. The list of repairs that it needs every year is getting longer and longer, and those repairs aren't worth putting that money into it. If anybody has any questions, problems, or concerns, I've got all the documentation for the ladder test that we do every year, and it shows 26 deficiencies, of which 6 are considered class 2, meaning it could affect the certification. A lot of that has to do with the wear pads on the ladder going in and out, and those aren't available. They'd have to be custom built, and at that point, it's just not worth putting that much money into a truck that old. Besides the safety factors of the seat belts being lap belts, the open cab in the back, the 1960s technology, I can go on and on and on. But I think that's kind of beside the point at this point. So the plan had always been, if we got the Air Pack grant, that would free up money to purchase a used ladder truck. My goal was to spend $150,000, find a truck that was going to last us 10 years. So my plan was to get it sometime in the next 6 months, 3 to 12 months. And we've been looking for the right vehicle to come along that is going to work for the community in Milton. So 6 months ago or so, I saw this truck, and it was interesting, kind of fit what I was looking for, but I didn't really think anything of it because we weren't ready to purchase it. I noticed it again a few weeks ago. I talked to Deputy Wheeler. I told him to go look at it because it happened to be local. We're looking nationally for this vehicle. So this one happened to be over in Maine. He took a ride up, said that there's nothing particularly wrong with the truck other than its age. The next day, I went up with our mechanic. We looked it all over. We thought that it was worth the money they were asking. Came back here that night. You guys happened to be in workshop, and discussed our options and summarized where we're at. And at that point, you authorized me to kind of negotiate. So we went back and forth, offer, counter offer, and we arrived at a price of $85,000. We had come up with a list of repairs the vehicle was going to need. They agreed to a lot of those repairs themselves, so we won't have to do them. So where it stands now is $85,000. They're going to fix the mechanical stuff. There's still other upgrades that are going to need to be done that we're going to have to do. But the price to purchase the vehicle at this point is $85,000. Our original offer was $75,000. They were asking 100. So they were asking 100, we upped at 75, they counted at 85 and to make the repairs. So either way, I think we'll come out about where we planned on coming out. But substantially less than my market analysis of where we should be of the 150,000 that I started at 6 months ago and presented to the planning board at that time. So, with that being said, I think that covers everything except for what we're gonna have to do to it. So, one of the dealers or repair facilities that we use is one exit up 95 from Gray. So our plan was to take it from Gray to there to get some of the stuff done that we needed. We've been going back and forth with them for 2 weeks, and we don't have the prices of those things finalized at this point. So, we're talking radios, scene lights, lettering, which will be done locally. The motor needs to be replaced on the gun, the elevated gun, master stream device. Little things like that. So we're trying to get all that together to give me a price, but we're probably talking another $20,000. Scene lights alone, 2 of them are missing off the bucket, and 1 of them is missing off the truck. So 4 scene lights, if we wanted to upgrade to LED, is probably like $7,000. I just don't have that final number. A radio is $7,500 to get a new radio, which we need to replace all the radios in our vehicles anyway. I could pull one out of another vehicle, but I don't want to pull one out and have it be replaced in a couple of years. Anyway, it's a lot of extra work. So, if you want, we could authorize the funding to purchase the truck, and then I can come back with an itemized list of everything else. And then we have 2 options where we can get that money from. The vehicle maintenance capital reserve, which has 61,000, and the capital reserve we're gonna purchase the truck from, which has about 165,000, depending on the interest and stuff like that. So there's plenty there. Plenty in both capital reserve to do whatever upgrades and minor repairs that we would need to do. As long as you guys are agreeable and understanding that there'll be, after we purchase it, there's still some upgrades that need to be replaced. But those are the big ones, the lights, the radios, and the lettering. What else did I have? The intercom needs to be repaired, but that's not gonna be much, and adding chevrons to the back and front bumper to make it visible while it's on the roadway. It's a NFPA standard now, it wasn't back then. So just to bring the safety up to modern standards for the next 10 years, it makes sense to do it while it's at the shop as opposed to getting it back here and then trying to scrape the money together through the budgets, which means it'll probably never get done.
How much would a vehicle like this cost, just, you know, for our, or for my,
So the truck that they're replacing, the one that this is replacing, is $1.3 million. And it's comparable to the one they're replacing at 1-for-1. I just read an article the other day, Lewiston bought a ladder truck without a bucket and it was $1 million. So that's the other nice thing about this one as opposed to the one we have now. The one we have now has no water, no pump on it. This one has 500 gallons of water and a 1250 GPM pump. And it's got a bucket as opposed to just a ladder. So it's a much safer working environment, particularly for chimney fires and that type of stuff.
and how long do you suspect this might last the town?
I see no reason that it wouldn't last 10 years. The current truck is 34 years old, this one's 22 years old, so you add 10, puts it at 32. And about 2 years ago was when that one probably really should have been replaced, but obviously there was no way we were gonna do that.
Okay,
And how much were you anticipating to pay on the repairs if they hadn't offered to do those? What
Worst
were-
case we figured 20 grand. In that, the list of emails that they laid out on their
Mhm.
cost, so they had $5,600 in materials,
Mhm.
and like 3 or 4 days worth of labor to do the springs and the exhaust.
The labor is a big part.
So you add that, so we were thinking 10 grand for those things that they're gonna fix. The other money that we had as part of that 20 was the radiator, which they say, the small leak that we found, they say it's been leaking for a while, which it probably had, it's a very minor leak, but if we were to repair the radiator, you're talking 8,000. So the 10 for the things they're going to repair, plus the 8 is how we came to that 20 roughly, and that's a real ballpark of it. We made some phone calls and based on experience of what things cost, so we weren't that far off.
Right.
So if they took the 75 and we put 10 into what they're gonna repair, we'd be at 85 anyway.
Right.
So the number's kind of the same
Right.
of our initial offer. They're gonna end up with more cash because they're doing a lot of the labor themselves. If that makes sense?
Yep.
About half of it's labor.
Mm.
5,600 in parts,
Labor's pricey.
3,400 in,
Yeah.
so.
So how soon, I mean, obviously we need that motion tonight to buy the truck.
I can-
They leaving it in service?
So, yeah,
I guess
Yep.
where I'm going with this is, are we gonna hold you up from getting the truck if we push off the motion till you get hard numbers
no,
for the rest of the stuff?
no, I don't think so.
Okay.
As long as you generally understand that, like, so they need to finish training on the new one. And they're running, this truck is still in service. The day we went up to look at it, they were back in an interim call. So it just goes to show the truck's in a good truck, good quality truck. So, still in service today, they're training on the new one. When I email the town manager tomorrow morning, she's gonna instruct the DPW crew to make the repairs. So I doubt they'll get to it tomorrow morning. But it would be the end of the week, so we're talking a week there. And then all of the next week, that I can't imagine anything moving. So I'd say we'll get at least 2 weeks to really worry about it.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little longer than that. I'll know better tomorrow. Because that was kind of left very vague when they'd be done training on the new one.
And I would assume before we officially say we're buying it, that'll be ironed out to a
Yes.
defined date.
Yep. So, part of the motion that I would recommend is to authorize either Ernie or myself to sign the purchase and sales agreement, which will have all that in there. If that makes sense, unless you want to do it as the chairman. It's up to you guys.
I think it probably makes the most sense for
Those two iron it out.
Ernie to do it. You-
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that.
All right. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make it. Make a motion for the chief. I'm looking to see what year is it?
1997.
To purchase Gray Main's 1997 75-foot Ferrari ladder truck in the amount of $85,000 with repairs to be completed as described. I think that's all we need.
I'll
And
second it.
authorize.
And authorize Ernie Krevling to go ahead and sign the purchase and sales.
And I'll second it.
And I think the only other part to that is you need to add the amount to be reimbursed from the capital reserve fund.
With the $85,000 to be
Reimbursed from the
reimbursed.
equipment
Thank
and
you, my mind, I
apparatus.
drew a blank. From the
Equipment and
capital,
apparatus capital reserve
Yeah,
fund.
that.
the equipment and apparatus capital reserve fund.
And I'll
All right.
second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Chief.
Was it- Did you get that whole motion?
Got it.
Is it
You
like the
wouldn't
one 2
believe
weeks
my
ago?
shorthand.
So
I
you
just
might
know
wanna
that the
switch to
trustees
next
are very
one,
specific
right?
on how that motion needs to be worded.
Mm-hmm.
He does.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. So I want to switch the next two around here. We're going to go to the school district November 15th vote update. Merton?
We were notified that the school did reallocate that $360,000 plus dollars for capital improvements for, I think, the alarm system and some air handlers and that kind of thing that they outlined in the documentation they put forth to the meeting. So since that happened, the tax bills will be, we're hoping that the tax rate will be set by the end of this week, at the latest, maybe the beginning of next week. And I was hoping that you could tell me whether, I mean, traditionally, are you folks there for this tax rate setting? Okay. So, and that's fine. I just need to know when to try to set it up. I'm hoping again that it will be Friday, but I can let you know, and we can try to set it up for Friday afternoon.
I mean, in the past, we haven't been there. Ever since I've been on the board,
Yeah, I mean,
the selectmen weren't.
we have, I was the first couple of years.
Yeah. Okay.
But
So I think maybe you're, somebody told me today the former town manager maybe sent you different options or something. Okay. So that we
Well,
will
'cause-
work it out.
Because when the tax rate is set, I
Yep.
mean, we have options to whatever we want to do. I mean, so
Right.
it's probably better that we're there. I mean, if we're gonna buy them down, or we gotta talk about all that stuff. Usually Joanne's there.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. So that's why we were trying to get it on Friday, because that's when she's there. So, well, I'll just keep you apprised of what it is, and I'll let you know. And if people want to be there, then, but of course, I need your guidance on what to do with the.
Right.
Yeah. So, and we won't really have all that information until Kathy's updating MS1 per direction of DRA, and right now the school's finance officer is working with Michelle Clark up at DR to get that all straightened around. So hopefully it will turn around pretty quickly. So I'll just keep in contact with you as I find out when it's going to happen.
Okay.
So, if you want to move on to the.
Yep, we'll move on to the tax anticipation note.
Yeah, so as, because of this, the tax rate hasn't been set, it's been delayed, and hence the tax bills will be delayed. Hopefully, if we get the tax rate set by Friday or early next week, then the tax bills can get out, and there'll be somewhere around, late December, probably December 30th, due dates for taxes. And so in the interim, we have to cover, we just got the county tax warrant, which is $1,169,912. So that's, we have to get that to them by December 17th. And there's actually something for you to sign later on with that. And then there are 2 months of SAU drawdowns, which total $950,000. Then we have 2 months of payroll for the town, which is about $255,000. And then 2 months of accounts payable. It's end of year, and there's a lot going on at this point. So the total estimated outflow is about $3.6, and so what we did was round it up to the $4 million for 60-day taxable tax anticipation note. And the taxable versus tax exempt, there's not really much of a difference. They just require less documentation. This happened so quickly that we are getting the quote for the taxable. So it looks like the interest rates anywhere from 2.2 to 2.5%. So I use 2.5% to estimate the maximum it would be. And what happens is you get, if you authorize this, you get a lump sum. They throw it right into the bank account, and then on the due date, which will be what we get when we get the actual quote and the terms, they will grab it right back along with the interest, which could be between $16,000 and $17,000. So it's a little bit of an expense there, but we really don't dare not to do it because, we'll be getting the inflow of tax revenue later in the year, and we have to meet all these obligations. So this letter, let me pass these out. These are updated letters. One that I wrote to Keith Pike at TD Bank that outlines those costs and everything. And the second page actually has the motion that has to be made. And what happens is this, let's see. It says that I move the vote entitled vote to authorize $4 million tax anticipation note for fiscal year 2019 be approved in the form presented at this meeting, and that an attested copy of said vote be included. And obviously, you can read the entire thing into the record if you want. I'll be happy to do that for you if you want me to. You'll see in there all those blanks are filled in with the $4 million. And then it would be on or about November 27th. And that gives us a few days. If we can even delay it until December 2nd, then we have it in hand for fewer days and maybe a little bit less interest involved with it. But I do not have the terms yet because I needed to send them that first letter for them to be able to actually give us send it to underwriting.
Do you know how much money that we have right now in our bank account?
I don't know the exact amount. I do know that the liquid portion of our unassigned fund balance is about $1 million. I did send an email to Mac to get those balances, but I didn't get a response back yet.
I mean, unfortunately, we don't really have much of a choice here.
So the other thing that needs to happen is that the council, Greg M., they do some business with TD Financing, which they rent out equipment and so forth. It's a part of the overall organization, but it's not really related to this. So he needs a waiver of conflict if the board is willing to vote to waive the conflict of interest that could potentially exist, but doesn't really because they're not related parts of the organization. So that would be something that we'd need a motion to waive conflict for Attorney Greg M. Of Woodson Drummond to enable him to continue working on this with the bank.
All right, well, I'll make a motion. I move that the vote entitled vote to authorize $4 million.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, is that?
You can do that one first.
Okay, vote to authorize $4 million tax anticipation note for fiscal year 2019.
Yeah, do you want me to read this into the record?
Sure, if you want to.
All right, I'll do it fast. All right. This is a vote to authorize $4 million tax anticipation note for fiscal year 2019. One, that the board of Selectmen, the Board of the Town of Milton, the town, authorizes the town treasurer to arrange with a financial institution for the issuance and sale of a tax anticipation note of the town for fiscal year 2019 in the principal amount of up to $4 million, and on such terms as the treasurer in her discretion, or his discretion, may approve, and any prior such arrangement is ratified and confirmed. That under and pursuant to the provisions of RSA 33:7 and town meeting approval of Article 6 of the March 12, 1994 annual town meeting warrant, authorizing indefinitely the issuance of tax anticipation notes, the board and the treasurer are authorized to borrow in anticipation of tax receipts for fiscal year 2019 in the name of Town of Milton, the sum up to $4 million, and to issue general obligation securities of the town in a principal amount not to exceed $4 million, to evidence such borrowing, the note, and to execute and deliver the note, signed by a majority of the board and countersigned by the treasurer, under the seal of the town, as applicable, dated on or about November 27th, 2019, in such form as the board and treasurer may approve, and that the appropriate officials of the town are authorized to execute and deliver on behalf of the town such documents and certificates as may be required in connection with such borrowing. 3, that if such borrowing is on a tax-exempt basis, the treasurer is authorized to covenant on behalf of the town that 1, no part of the proceeds of the note shall be used directly or indirectly to acquire any securities and obligations, the acquisition of which would cause the note to be an arbitrage bond within the meaning of Section 148 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, the code. And 2, the proceeds of the note shall not be used in a manner that would cause the note to be a private activity bond within the meaning of Section 141 of the code, and that the note, as applicable, is designated as a qualified tax-exempt obligation within the meaning of Section 265B3 of said code, and that the treasurer is authorized to covenant on behalf of the town to file any information report and pay any rebate due to the United States in connection with the issuance of the note, to take all other lawful actions necessary to ensure the interest on the note will be excludable from gross income of the owners thereof for purposes of federal income taxation, and to refrain from taking any action which would cause interest on the note to become includable in the gross income of the owners thereof. Got it?
Thank you.
I'll second this Mike's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the second one,
What was his name again?
Greg M. Attorney M.
M.
I am.
Attorney M. Okay.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to waive the conflict as described by Attorney M and constant to Drummond and Woodsman representation of the town in the matter of the tax anticipation note through TD Bank.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Yes. Okay.
I just wanted this done.
I am.
I am. It threw me off. I thought it was a typo. All right.
You can go on to all the other things.
So we have a 7 o'clock public hearing, which it's not 7 o'clock yet, so we'll go over to old business. We get budget progression discussion.
Yeah, I guess the budget committee will be meeting on Wednesday. At
Tuesday.
Thursday? Oh, okay. Okay, well, you can, you were with the budget committee, so you can.
I was advised that, Tom, I'm sorry, I spoke out of turn. Tom keeps sending emails to my wife's account. I do not want them. I do not read them. Suzanne said that the meeting, which was on Tuesday, had been moved to Wednesday and is now rescheduled for Thursday. I know nothing else about it.
Okay. All right, well, the last I'd heard it was Wednesday, so the budget committee will be meeting this week at the fire department, and, hopefully things will be, get finished up. And we have a couple of items here that came up. One of them was the question about the phone line that came up at the joint meeting last Monday. And we looked at that, and frankly, I don't know why it was up. It was actually at the same amount it had been, but when we looked at it, it looked like it could actually be cut down to about 3,500. We looked at 3,000, but I think that may be a little bit close. I mean, the phone system's old. I guess depending on what you do with the list of items that we have for the unanticipated revenue, they could. If that one of those things is acceptable, which is the town's phone system, then that could obviously be cut down to the 3,000, because that then just covers the billing for the year. Because that amount was in there for any kind of equipment failures and that kind of thing. And it looks like they haven't spent any money on it. But probably could have been, because every time I pick my phone up, all you hear is static. So, but so that's one of them. That line, could easily be cut to $3,500 without any issues. And I did send an email to Dennis Woods this weekend, because he had some questions about fund balance and so forth, and I copied all of you on that. And I did send a copy to the chairman of the budget committee today. So he's got that as well. And the other item was social services. Let's see, the Revolution Food Pantry director appeared before you a couple of months ago, asking for $2,500 toward their efforts here in town, and they had given you a letter, and that is in your packet. And Danielle can probably talk to that a little bit. Some of the outside agencies she works with, or maybe not. So, but you do have the letters.
I just am aware of what they came in and presented with.
Yeah. So that was one of the open items from the budget committee meeting as well, whether you were going to include that in your outside agencies appropriations.
So on the outside, are we gonna talk about the outside appropriations?
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. On the outside appropriations, have we got everybody last year? Has everybody came in and asked for the same requests?
And unless it was $3,025 difference from last year's request to this year's. Two agencies increased a little bit, and we have had one new one, and this would be a second new one.
Okay.
I believe we approved all those, right?
You did.
So this is
This
the
is
only
This
one
is the
that we
only
didn't
additional
approve,
that wasn't.
because it wasn't in at the time, or I'm not
Right.
sure.
Well, it was in.
It
It
was.
just sort of got bypassed, because they were in here on September 24th, I believe.
Because where I'm going with this is, if we go into a default budget, any of these new appropriations won't be covered. And I think it'd be behooved us not to try to figure out how to leave some of this money in our own town that benefits our own people right here in Milton. And if we go into a default budget, that means it's now We Care Food Pantries, but that means the Revolution Food Pantry gets $0. And I find that unacceptable. So I think what we should do, my only personal feeling, is to go through all the outside appropriations, and we can try to figure out, maybe whoever is asking for what is not going to get that amount, that X amount of dollars, and we can revocate some of that money to this organization that really hits the people right here in Milton. So that's where
But-
what I was thinking.
All of the agencies that have submitted their requests service the residents, not just one or three.
No, I
particular.
understand that, but what I'm saying is, unfortunately, maybe all those agencies aren't gonna get really what they're asking. Because I think, my personal opinion, I think, we need to take care of, this food pantry that helps the Milton residents right here in Milton. So, I mean, they help other residents in other towns, but mainly, a lot of residents from Milton go down there. So, that's
I
where,
think
that's my
there's
only,
two different issues, I guess, because the first thing is we need to get it in the budget, regardless of what happens with next year's budget. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'm not really sure. I mean, you're talking about next year's budget, not this year's budget, right?
yeah, no, I'm talking about this
Used
year's
here.
budget. I'm talking about this budget we're talking about right now.
Well, we're talking about next year's budget right now, aren't we?
Yes.
All right, yeah, I apologize. Yeah, next
You're
year's
really
budget.
confusing me.
Yeah, no, I apologize. I was thinking, yeah, this coming, March, this budget coming up, yeah.
But the second part of your concern, I don't think we can really address tonight. Right?
I don't know, enlighten me. Well, why not?
Because you're talking about next year's budget that hasn't even gone to the voters yet.
Right,
So
but,
regardless of what we do, we
But
can't
the
be
thing
spending
is-
money next year already.
well, if we go into a default budget, which, but, I mean, we can allocate. we
Not
don't-
now, though.
We don't necessarily have to allocate all those revenues to each of those outside appropriations. We can say, all right, well, we're gonna, take $200 from this one, $200 from that one, and reallocate the money to this pantry, is what I'm saying.
But not now.
No, for next year.
But we can't even, we'd have to have that discussion next year after the budget is approved or to figure out where we're at. We can't, right? Am I?
No.
So what is it you're trying to,
Every year, we look at outside appropriations, okay? And we all come up to an agreement on where the money is gonna go. All right, well, this year, unfortunately, we're probably going to a default budget, so we don't have to necessarily allocate, I wish I had my budget book in front of me, but I don't know, just take for instance, I don't know, the AIDS clinic. They're asking for such amount of money. Just take $100 off of it and until we find a good number to, what we want to give, well, what we want to give this food pantry. I mean, we don't necessarily have to give, just because each one of those people last year are asking for that money, doesn't mean necessarily they're gonna get it.
so you're trying to make no net change to that budget?
Right, but share the money, but share the amount of money in the,
Right.
that's all I was trying to do.
So this is for the budget committee?
But even if it goes to default, it's gonna be irrelevant. Because none of this is gonna be in there. That's where I'm confused.
Yeah, it will be.
No, default budget is what this year's budget is, and they're not in this year's budget. There's no way they can go in this year's budget. That's why I'm saying you can't really do this
Are you
till
sure
next
about
year.
that?
Well, you wouldn't be able to, we wouldn't be able to rescue them from that default budget issue. But I thought what you might have been trying to do was to reallocate the money so that there was no net increase to that overall thing for this
Right.
year's budget.
Right,
So the
but
budget, so the budget committee
but
would
this-
have that.
there's no reason why you can't put this in there this year. Just because we're going into a default budget,
2019 or 2020?
2020. I mean,
I'd
we're
like
gonna-
to see us add this, leave what we have in there now, just add this for 2,500 as another line. That, I'll even put that in the motion, that we add the Revolution Food Pantry to the 2020 budget, in the amount of $2,500.
All right, go ahead. But
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
I'll bring that up again in March.
no, I mean, I'm not gonna, it's not no use to trying to, but it is what it is.
Anything else about the budget?
Just that phone line, if it's okay for me to respond to Thomas, that to cut that down to 3,500?
Yep. You want that as a motion? Or
That'd be great, yeah, sure.
make a motion to cut the TA phone line down to $3,500.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Everybody else good with the budget?
Yeah.
All right, move on to approval of minutes, or wait, do you have other business that you'd like to discuss first?
Well, why don't you go ahead and do the minutes and I'll do the other two.
All right, so minutes, first up, we have the October 21st, 2019 BOS meeting. I'll make a motion to approve
As written.
as written.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next up, we have the October 28th Board of Selectmen meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve as written.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I'll make a motion.
So that was meeting and workshop minutes, just to be clear, for anyone that's listening or watching. Next up, October 30th, Board of Selectmen workshop minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve as written.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next up, we have the November 4th workshop minutes. I'll make a motion to accept as written.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's not on the agenda, but you do have Tuesdays workshop. That was fixed.
I wasn't here, so I can't vote.
I'll make a motion to approve these November 12th workshop session minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, other business?
Let's see. Yeah, I've got,
A lot of papers.
I do have a lot of papers here. Okay, here we go. All right. So we had gotten a request from Ken Rubin, who is one of the folks who you contract, not you personally, but the Board of Selectmen contracted with a few years ago with the solar garden. And their request was to increase the length, the ground lease for the solar array over the old landfill an additional 5 years, because what they're trying to do is to refinance. And one of the things that the financing company wants them to do is to make sure all of their leases are the same length of time. And Milton, along with another one or two communities, have different lease terms. So in the process, during the course of researching this, we found that, well, what we haven't found is the authorization from town meeting to allow the selectmen to enter into a 5-year lease. And that's something that's required when you're talking about land or buildings. and that's RSA 41:11-A. And Michelle went back and researched that back to the year that the legislation was passed, and it was able to find nothing that where the town authorized it. So let me give you each one of these. And I think, you may end up having to schedule another meeting to deal with this. When is the next regular one?
December 2nd.
Okay, yeah, that would work. They're refinancing, I think it's December 12th, so, but you can take this and look at it. But Carrie Ann, the attorney with Drummond Woodsum, has given a couple of choices for this, and that involves going to town meeting to ratify pursuant to RSA 41:11-A, the terms of the lease as it exists now, and then any amendments to it. So on the 2nd of December, if we bring it back, take a look at it. If you have any questions, just email me or call me, and I'll try to make sure I have all the answers for you at that meeting. But she added something at the end of, you have an amendment to the agreement, and what she added at the very last paragraph, you see the type that's different. This amendment requires ratification by the Milton Town Meeting in March 2020. So what her recommendation was to have you authorize the amendment now, subject to ratification by town meeting, because she thinks that would actually get them through. She did the same thing in Farmington, I believe is what she says in here, and that worked for them at the time, at least in terms of the lease and the ratification. But it's all explained in this, and I know this is the first time you've seen it, so I don't really want to put any pressure on you. I think you need to get the chance to read through this, and if you have any questions, get them to me. So that's just an update on that, and what I'll do with your permission is bring it back on the 2nd of December.
Okay.
All right. And then the county tax warrant, we received that, and that's the amount that I said before. Just take that. There you go. It's the $1,169,912, and they have given us a nice postage prepaid envelope,
Saved us 50.
so that
Because we wrote that.
you want to X that right there, and each one sign that, and we'll send this back and tell them, hey, we got this. Thanks. So that's just acknowledgement that we got the bill. So we'll do a check. And that really,
You wanna take care of this, Aaron? Let's Bill.
No, I thought you were. That's the last man signing it gets pays the check, right?
I'm in trouble.
we'll just give that to, along with that to Joanne for Friday.
Oh, I'm gonna take copies of it.
Sorry. So can you put the deed up here? That's all I have.
So we have another 10 minutes for a public hearing.
You can't go over your expenditure.
Expenditure report.
Yeah, if you just look at the straight line, as of today's date, it would be 88% spent. And it looks like we're still in pretty good shape, as we're heading into the last month and a half of potential winter conditions.
Any questions or comments on this?
The overall general fund, without the wastewater treatment in it, is 77% expended.
Yeah.
reprint that page
Yeah.
and fix that. Yeah,
Can you pass?
which is
Yeah. The
the
vote.
verbiage was right, but the
The vote was-
total at the end was wrong. All right,
I was here in spirit.
expenditure report, everybody good with that?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Do we wanna do selectmen comments early?
We can.
I don't really have anything.
Yeah, maybe switch short and soon.
I don't have anything either, so.
I'm not printing it again.
Ernie, do you have anything else?
Not until the hearing, no.
Water breaks.
We can take a 5-minute recess. Unless we wanna do public comment now. I'm sure there's one person out there that might have some public comment.
No,
If he-
come on.
I have a 1-minute list.
Go for it if you.
We still get 5 minutes.
Larry Brown, 1-minute list, more serious. The dollar difference between the interest and the sources, whether you shop for more than one, whether or not a bond counsel would have been more use. Several years ago, Leo Lassard, who was then a commissioner and the former town treasurer, worked together, and our county tax bill was not due until after January 1st for their intervention. Lastly, she was a good help in lowering TAN's costs. On the economies of scale through the Wakefield food pantry versus the local product, a line item controls whether or not you can pay any money out, and the voluntary action of the selectmen controls whether you decide to use what may be there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we can still go on a 5-minute recess here, or break.
Larry and I are gonna go talk about that LSU game.
Here's an updated list. I've got some actual prices on a couple of them. Substantially less.
Oh, this is,
Because the other ones are investing. We don't really have to do that. I just figured we need to talk about the project, in general, and
That's exactly what it was. That was all me.
Just gave people an extra 60 minutes to think.
Yeah. All right, so it's 7 o'clock. The Milton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing in accordance with RSA 31, colon 95-B on Monday, November 18th, 2019 at 6 p.m. at the Milton Town Hall, 424 White Mountain Highway, Milton, New Hampshire. The purpose of the hearing is to consider acceptance and expenditure of the unrestricted, unanticipated revenue to the town of Milton in the amount of $74,099.03 as municipal aid from the state of New Hampshire. And just for clarification, the agenda said the public hearing was at 7 o'clock. However, the notice said 6. Everybody that was here at 6 is still here at 7. So we wanted to make sure we gave everybody plenty of time to get here if they went by the agenda. So I will open up the public hearing. Turn over to Ernie.
Well, just by way of explanation, this is revenue that came about as a compromise for the biennial budget from the state, HB4. And so the schools, you know, theirs was dealt with as anticipated revenue, and they had their special meeting on Friday night, and they ended up reallocating that for capital purposes. For us, it's considered unanticipated revenue. So, you know, according to our advice from legal counsel and everything, you holding this hearing tonight, and this is revenue that is can be used for valid municipal purposes. It doesn't have to go to further action to town meeting. It's just the revenue that you got, and we're going to talk about some of the things that we were looking at for projects that we need to take care of. And what we tried to do was to limit these to things that we're going to, they're almost capital in nature, but they're larger systems. So the total amount was $74,990.03. So I just rounded figures for the purpose of this discussion. But we had talked about the town hall server and computers. Virtually every computer, I think with the exception of maybe 2 that have been replaced, one this year and maybe one last year, are on operating systems that will no longer be supported as of December 31st of this year. And so we got a proposal for the cost of all of those units. I think there are 10 total, along with the server, to be replaced for $15,236. Some of these things I've got actual costs on, others are just approximate. The police chief talked to you about his phone system down at the PD, and he's got a quote for the preferred system, which is the same one they have in the fire department, and probably the same one we would want to do here if we do the phone system here, in the amount of $13,000. I don't have the actual quote in hand for the town hall. I was supposed to have it today, but I didn't get it, so I just estimated it at $15,000 or so. And then there's the Stratford Regional Planning Commission gave us a proposal to catch us up on MS4 to do the notice of intent, only because, you know, we've been trying to do this ourselves internally, but there just seemed to be a lot of brush fires that we're putting out. Don't go get a fire truck. But
We can
So-
wait a couple weeks for it, so.
So we had gotten a proposal from Stratford Regional Planning for $1,480, and I just added $200 for contingency to $1,680. And they will actually complete the notice of intent for us, which was supposed to have been done by October of 2018. And that will get us caught up. And from that point, you know, we'll have to move forward. We're lucky in that most of the MS4 area in town is actually along a state road corridor. We do have, you know, along the Milton Pond down Townhouse Road, all those all the development down there would be subject to some MS4 things, but because that's owned privately, most of it's going to be educational in nature, and there may be some ordinances and so forth that need to be passed that deal with some of those things, but that'll come down the road a little bit. So then we did have an issue where we found that one of the security cameras, there was an issue with someone getting back too much change at the town clerk's office, and their books didn't, they couldn't reconcile the books at the end of the day, and it was off by an amount. It was just too much. I mean, I think it was something somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe $50 or something like that. But we're able to see on there, counting out the bills and everything, but there wasn't enough detail. So what we wanted to do was have a security camera placed there, not so it's going to actually film anything other than the transaction, but it would give a better line of sight to these kinds of things in case it happened again. Because we had to go back through we actually used the security system and we were able to go back and ascertain what had happened. But it would be better if it was right there. So the proposal is to put one right up in the window so it points down and is able to see the entire transaction. And the other one was a security camera at the beach. Apparently there isn't one down there, and I had talked with Karen about this earlier. So one of them, the security camera here, I got a price of $544 from Northeast Security. The one at the beach I don't have a price for yet, so I just I put a total of $1,500 for those two just as an estimate, but I will get a price from them on the beach camera. And then the town hall alarm repair, that's only $350. I mean, it's something one way or the other, whether you use this actual amount or not, it needs to be repaired because it won't accept codes, and what's happening is they're not able to, there's not a strong enough signal through the phone lines and so forth, so they're going to set up something wireless for us. And then I put $17,000 for the interest on the tax anticipation note. I think it'd be smart, since it wasn't budgeted. You have $1 budgeted for tax anticipation note within the operating budget, and I think given that you probably don't want to add that to the budget next year because that'll increase it. You probably want to take it out of this year and maybe encumber it for to pay that, because that'll be due at the end of January. And then we looked at, I have on here, we have a $5,000 from Atlantic Broadband, so I'd have an additional $5,000 to look at trying to set up downstairs with a camera and so forth, just looking at generally how to make it a better presentation. I think our biggest problem I thought it was really our screen, but it's probably our projector. It's just terrible. You can't see anything when you've seen that when we try to present on there. But I think it would probably be better if with all of this that isn't accounted for in this list, there's a $6,224 balance. If you took that $5,000 and added to that and put it toward the furnace work at the library, that would be good. And I think the rest of that could be covered under the building maintenance line. But that would take $11,224 toward the I believe it was nearly $18,000 for the boiler repair at the library. Is that right, Betsy?
Something like that,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So, I mean, those are a list of the things that we had outlined, and as I said, we tried to make it things that weren't just a one-year thing. I mean, you don't want to do operating. Anything other than something that's going to last a longer time. I think the phone system's been in here for 15 years or so. So, I mean, it would be at least a 10-year repair for that. So that's what we tried to do, is keep with the long-term things. And with the computers, if we've got the money to do it now, because it has to be done before December, you've got trouble funding the capital reserve plan anyway, so it seems like it would be a good idea to use this money for that purpose, rather than draw down capital reserve funds.
All right, any comments from the board?
I think that's all great ideas.
So I'll open it up for public. Any comments from the public? Larry?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did not plan to be speaking this much as, you know, Larry Brown night, but, and I hope people are watching, because what you are seeing, and what I'm saying to the people who are watching, is what you are seeing here is end of life, due diligence, and the accidents that affect any town. And those are the three things which, if you look at them in a regular budget, you can't explain why you're spending the money. But if you have an end of life of December 31st, and you have money coming in now, it is prudent, that ancient phrase, the prudential management of the town's affairs. And the other thing that I wanted to mention that did not come into Ernie's presentation is this money comes from last year's head count of free and reduced lunch students at the school system. So if you want to help the tax rate for your town, if you want to help bring anticipated funds into town next year, one of the community services you can do for yourself and your own personal budget is to register for and use the free and reduced lunch program that is available from the state. If we have phony numbers, 100 students got us $75,000. 200 students would get us $150,000. It is based on per capita for the school district use of the free and reduced lunch program this year for 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other comments from the public? No.
And thank you for the library furnace is a delight. It is so crisp and clean. The solder joints are textbook perfect.
And it's warm.
All right, so do we close the public hearing first, or?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the unanticipated revenue in the amount of $74,990.03 from the state of New Hampshire, and to expend it in for valid municipal purposes, including but not limited to these items discussed during the public hearing, which was held in accordance with RSA 31:95-B and Article 13 as approved at the March 14th, 2017 town meeting.
Second it.
All in favor? Aye. All right. I think that concludes everything. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.